We're talking about tariffs today. This is a big topic, in my opinion.
I mean,
Um,
we're not going to get political.
yeah,
If that's what you were hoping for,
no,
that's not happening. I
I
like to
don't.
keep my politics close to my heart, kind of like my cocktails right
Your
here.
cocktails.
I keep them right here, right here, where only
Mm,
I can enjoy them.
okay,
Um,
but it is a thing. I
it is a
mean,
political thing
it is a
that's going to affect all of us.
it is, but I think you and I, at least, I don't know about people watching or people who may comment on this either live or once it's posted, can try to remain unbiased. But I think you and I are, I think we do a pretty good job of that. So hopefully that will come across because it really does not matter what your political viewpoint is, one way or the other. This is what's happening.
Correct.
So we need to understand it and be able to respond as best we can. Um, and I will say, I'm gonna let you kind of start things off today, if you don't mind, Isabel, because I have a hopeful outlook on this that I am going to share closer to the end of the podcast today. So
I don't know how hopeful I am about this. Well, I mean, we all know what tariffs are. Tariffs are taxes on goods that are brought in from another country. Initially, the tariff war was against pretty much every single country that in any way ships goods to the United States. Then those countries were like, well, if you're going to tariff us, we're going to tariff you. And then it just turned into this. Unfortunately, even if people are playing
uh-oh, I
politics,
lost your oh, I
oh, are
lost
we?
you on
Yeah, I
StreamYard
see
somehow.
it. I see it. Weird. I think we're coming back.
Are you? It's not
Hold
me.
on.
Okay.
We'll see. Sorry, guys, on Facebook and YouTube.
I still can't
Yeah, so weird,
hear
but
you. Yeah,
connection.
well, hang on. I don't want to, if I refresh my screen, I might leave. I don't know.
It says that I don't have internet, but I have internet. Says my connection's unstable, but I have a feeling that's StreamYard.
So I hear, like, when we're doing this, the way I listen to you is through StreamYard. And so, okay, wait. You're gonna, now you're gone everywhere. Technical difficulties. Um, how about this
So weird.
weather?
I'm
No,
here.
just
Can you
kidding.
see me? Do you see
Wait.
me? Do you see
Okay,
me?
I see you on Instagram. I don't see you on StreamYard at all.
Yeah, we're gonna have to do that again. I think it's StreamYard.
Okay. Do you want to try to start that
Let's
over, or do you?
do
Because
that again.
I'm still, to me it still shows we're live on StreamYard, but I'm the only one in the stream.
How?
I don't know. I can get out
No, no, no.
if you want me to get out.
Don't.
Okay.
I'm
There
back.
you are.
Okay. Sorry,
Okay.
guys. I don't know what just happened. That was so weird. My little, like the Wi-Fi sign on my phone and everything was fine, but then everything was just crashing. So I don't know. Maybe we have people trying to shut us up about tariffs and pet products. Uh,
Maybe.
so anyway, the problem with playing politics, which is not just our administration, but it's like the whole world, is that all of a sudden people get scared, right?
Yeah.
So the manufacturer gets scared, the retailer gets scared, the worker gets scared, the stock market gets scared. So if you're retiring soon, I apologize for you. I feel bad for you because I know that that's affected a lot of portfolios because everybody's playing politics. And, you know, the reality is not we in the United States cannot make everything that we get abroad, especially not this quickly, right? Like, so like the problem with tariffs is in the short term, they cause all sorts of craziness. Whether or not they're good in the long term is for an economist to speak on, not me. I did study economics. I have a minor in economics, but I will not speak to that. I will say though that I have spoken to a couple of people in the pet industry who are making their own products. One of them is a poop bag manufacturer, that is scared she just won't be able to compete anymore. And then I did speak to or hear from a pet product manufacturer that makes leashes, harnesses, clothing, things like that, and as well is not able to really operate right now just because of the uncertainty of the tariffs. So I'll explain it from the perspective of the poo bags manufacturing, manufacturing pet products, and then we'll talk about just like packaging and stuff. Initially, with the person that I spoke to, it's she just isn't placing orders right now because she doesn't know what the cost of the order will be when it arrives here, right? So she will have to pass that expense on to the consumer, and if she raises her prices too much, the consumer just won't buy. So right now she's like, I have my inventory and that's what I'm selling. I don't know what comes next for my business if this happens because, you know, she's known for her landfill biodegradable poop bags, and obviously she would have to take a big pivot. She does sell other things, so she's like such a badass. So I'm not super worried about her, but like, you know, she gave me the idea that basically her bags right now, one of the packages sells for $10. Based on what's projected, she would have to sell that same package for $22. And the market just can't withstand that, right? Like, people will use their grocery bags before they pay $22 for a pack of poo bags, landfill biodegradable or not. Like, it kind of doesn't, it's not really relevant anymore if it's that expensive. It's like, I can't. So that's that. And then the second person is also not ordering because the second person who manufactures pet products gets all of their fabrics. The pet products are made here. The poop bag, the additive that goes in the poop bag is made in the US, but it's sent to China. China makes the poop bag, sends it back. For this pet products manufacturer that I'm referring to, they get their fabric from abroad and then make the products here in the US, which is what a lot of people do. Made in the USA does not exclusively mean that all products within that line or within that item, every piece of that item is not necessarily made in the United States. It's a lot of times assembled in the United States with products from elsewhere. So in her case, she can't get fabric at all here for like a reasonable price. Like in the United States, fabric that at her price point, what she gets it abroad, it does not exist here in the United States. So she can't make any more products. So again, she's got her products that she has, and she's kind of not importing fabric, not making new inventory. And so what happens, and I can't speak to either one of them because I didn't ask them if they were going to raise their prices on what they have. But the next logical step, if you can't get inventory, is to raise your prices on the inventory that you do have. So I would assume that not just them, but everybody who's kind of taking the same stance of like, let's not make more product, let's not order, let's wait and see, they might wait and see by raising their prices on what they already have. So immediately as consumers, we may see that price increase, even if they haven't really paid more for what they have. We may actually just see it go up just preemptively, because as a business who's been, you know, who has overhead, they have to continue to pay their staff. They need to continue to pay their, you know, packaging loan that they may have taken out, like all their warehouses, all of the things that they have to maintain. They need to continue to maintain. So what they have now is going to have to help cover some of it. And they'll probably raise the price as much as the market can stand, right? So it might be a few dollars. It might not be, you know, $10 to $22, but it might be $10 to $15. I don't know, 13 even. But it is an increase that we all have to consider. And then even if you buy a product that is sourced in the United States, the packaging most likely is not. So packaging starts to become a problem too when we start talking about food and supplements and things like that, because most people, even if they're importing stuff from countries that are not going to be tariffed, like, you know, like it's evolved to where now there's like a China thing
Mhm.
specifically. So like now we're not talking about like New Zealand necessarily, or like Europe where maybe you get some supplements or some like meats.
Yeah.
You're talking about specifically China. And you know, the electronics companies like Apple already made a call, and they're not going to be tariffed because we already know that we can't afford that to happen, because then our economy will be very much affected by that. But um, we know that anything that is packaged in any single way, whether it's a jar of pills, a little bottle of CBD, any kind of packaging that goes around your harness or your leash, or the bag of pet food that even, you know, vaccines and things like in the medical industry are going to go up, because all of those plastic containers for syringes and for blood work and the latex gloves and things like that, it's all going to go up. So we're inevitably, even if we're not necessarily buying the expensive poo bags or in the market for a leash or a harness, everything's going to go up basically, because any tariff, whether it goes into effect or not, scares manufacturers, and it scares um, retailers.
Consumers. Yeah.
And I mean, and then they pass it on to the consumer, right? So, you know, Walmart is not going to lose money, so they're going to end up seeing where they're going to be able to make their profit margin still, even if the prices go up. Very few companies, and I think that like Target, I think for a while there after the pandemic, like said like we are not going to raise prices on like these 10 critical items. But a lot of this stuff is like not necessarily critical. It might be comfortable for us to
Yeah.
use, and it
Yeah.
might be stuff that like we use in our day to day without thinking, but it might not be like milk and eggs, even though that's a whole other conversation, because those are already untouchable for most people anyway. So that is what's happening, is that it's not just the tariff, it's the thought of the threat of the potential of a tariff that is going to affect us and our bottom line as consumers.
Yeah.
Everything's going to go up just based on the threat
Hmm.
of these tariffs. So that, as a pet parent on a budget, because I mean, we all have a budget. Some of us have really big budgets, and some of us have really tiny budgets for our pets, and some of us have more pets, and some of us have like one very spoiled pet. So whatever your budget is, and wherever you are on that spectrum of like spendy, not so spendy pet parent, all of us are going to see a rise. And that's why we wanted to talk about this, not because it's political, but because we all need a strategy, right? We all need to know going into this how our pets are going to be affected. We're going to talk about your budget for even veterinary care, and how if you're saving money right now for your vet bills, you may need to save more just in case. So I think I've done the intro here, but let's hand it over to you.
Yeah. Well, I think I think you touched on what most people are thinking about, and that is prices increasing. But we also have to realize that a lot of companies, not all, but a lot of companies may also cut corners. So it's kind of a twofold thing that we have to be looking out for. So, I personally believe there are some companies that would rather raise prices than cut corners. Those are the kinds of companies that I I would prefer to support, because I want to be confident in the quality of what I'm giving my pet. At the same time, I also believe there are companies that will do both, raise prices and cut corners. And I think we see that already happening a lot. I think it was don't, don't quote me on this, but I want to say pure it was either Purina or Hills. And I think we talked about this a little bit. Their quarter four, quarter three or quarter four for 2024, they um increased increase their revenue and decrease their cost of sale. So they did both. and we can fully expect to see companies like that continue to do both. I think that is probably the worst case scenario. You're paying more for a lesser quality. Um, to me, that is the worst case scenario. So again, it kind of comes back to what kind of trust you have in the brands that you're buying, and what kind of transparency that the brands you're purchasing from have. How accessible are these brands to you? And granted, for most people wouldn't have any idea how to even contact a brand. And I get that. Like, that's just too much. Our bandwidth is like this, and what we need to be doing every day is like this. I get it. Um, so I think it in the short term, yes, I think we are going to have a lot of these issues. And I personally, I feel like we're already, as you said, seeing this like preemptive price increase. Not pet product related, but I was recently out of town and had to, same day, buy a piece of luggage to come back home. And I normally if I'm buying a piece of luggage, I'm like doing my research, what's a good brand, what's going to be a quality piece, you know what I mean? But in this, like, I need it today, I'm getting on the plane tomorrow, I ran into TJ Maxx and I'm looking at these um suitcases, and I'm like, granted, it's probably been 3-ish years since I had something happen where, again, the at the last time the airline completely destroyed my suitcase, and I was getting on a cruise ship and I had like an hour to get somewhere, buy a suitcase and repack before getting on a cruise ship. So it's been a few years since I've shopped for a suitcase at like a TJ Maxx site type situation. But I'm walking in looking at like a plain old, like, first of all, we know the same manufacturer is making all of these and sticking different labels on them, right? But I'm looking at these going, how is TJ Maxx charging $150 for a suitcase, right? I'm like, this isn't a quality piece. Like, how are you expecting people to pay? And to me, I'm like, I don't know if this has anything to do with these tariffs, but it just so happens to be like in this time frame. So my mind went to, it's the tariffs, right? Because
Well, I mean,
obviously,
everything's been going up since the
yeah,
pandemic. Everything has been going up. Like, I remember when we first moved to El Paso, we'd been here 8 years next month, and like everything was so affordable compared to the rest of the country. And now we're still more affordable in like housing. I mean, it's gone up at least $150,000 for any house you want. Like back then, you could have gotten for 220. Now you're getting it for 370 or whatever, or 350. But going out to dinner is now like up, like on par with going out
especially
in
if
like
you
a
have
big city.
kids, if you have
Yeah, and like,
kids, how
yeah,
are you
I
going
mean,
out
like
to eat?
and then everything's gone up. So that's the problem, is we're already without. I mean, literally the Trump administration ran on the economy because it was a huge problem.
Yeah,
Like that was,
yeah,
you know
yeah,
what I mean? Like,
yeah.
and they won because the economy was already a huge problem. So this is not only due to the tariffs.
No,
This is just another layer of concern, instability in the market, blah, blah, blah. And another thing that we need to consider as pet parents is availability of things, right?
yeah,
Because inevitably, when these prices go up, go up, go up, go up, and like the market can't sustain them, even if you are willing to pay for something, even if I were willing to pay $20 for a pack of 10 poo bag rolls,
yeah,
it just is not going to exist for me anymore, whether I want it or not. And what happens then is we're also seeing a business go under and workers end up without jobs, and you know, somebody's dream coming to an end. So obviously, like, it's all so connected. But the reason I wanted to talk about this more than anything is because of availability, not only based on your budget, but also even if you have, you know, you're making it rain at the Petco, you may not have that object, that item, that thing that you want or that your pet depends on. So if right now, before decisions are made, if things haven't risen as much that it really makes it impossible for you to invest in it, right now might be a time to stock up on stuff that your pet really depends on.
Hmm.
Whether it's, um, I don't know, like some kind of CBD supplement where, it has improved their quality of life and you want to make sure that they still have it. Whether it's some kind of food like that you use as a topper, like I use a freeze dried food as a topper for my dogs and my cat, and I want to make sure that I potentially have something thought of, maybe not that quality, maybe like a step down, but something still that I can still use. Because especially if you're like a cat parent and you've been using fancy food, cats don't transition all that well. So having a plan in place in case there is an unavailability is really quite important. And if it's a pet's quality of life depends on this, then I think that it's an important thing to maybe potentially stock up on if you can, if it doesn't break you financially, get a few jars or a few bottles of that CBD, or get a few things. Because again, I feel like we're at a moment right now where people are still this close to making decisions about their products. Maybe they haven't yet. Maybe they're
Hmm.
like, in on May 1st we're going to figure something out, or on May
Yeah.
1st or on May 15th we have to make a decision. Maybe people, especially small brands, if you support small brands, they may kind of be like kind of just like taking it all in, and you
Hmm.
may still be able to get something at the price that you're used to. And obviously that's a really great way to support these businesses, especially if they're small, so that maybe they can get past this tough time. Because I think this is very
Yeah.
temporary. I think this is obviously, like, as most things have been. I do think we need to kind of, if you're in the middle class, you have to realize that our money doesn't go as far as it once did. So maybe we need to live a little more frugally. And obviously, if you are struggling with your pet and feeding your pet, it's only going to get harder. So now is a good time to be looking at any programs near you, like food pantries, things like that for your pet. Because if you're already struggling, chances are you
Hmm.
may have, you know, more struggles up ahead. This summer,
Yeah.
people are already struggling. I saw that the airlines were reducing flights because they think people are not traveling. I don't know if that's true or not. Everywhere I go, it's packed with people.
I
So, like, I
know.
have no idea if that's the case. But every time that you see some kind of article like that, it affects some businesses' decision making.
Hmm.
Any fear mongering that's going on around the economy, around tariffs, around anything like that is going to affect the decisions that these businesses, especially small businesses, make, right? Like large, huge, multi-billion-dollar companies have, their own economists, their own things, their own this, their own that. They're going to do fine. They're going to be just fine. It's the small businesses, the community-based businesses that are really going to be struggling and are going to be making decisions, and maybe even preemptively shutting their doors because they can't make ends meet. I mean, living in El Paso has really opened my eyes, because I lived in the DC area where, like, really the economy has always been booming. Even in the recession in 2008, the economy was booming, right? Because it was very that area was really kind of safeguarded by the government jobs, the federal agents in the area. There was a lot of contractor jobs that were working with. There was conflict going on, so all of the Boeings and the Ingersoll Rands and all those things were just like booming over there. So all those government contractors were fine. Most people work for somehow related to the government, so they were okay. And then when I moved to El Paso, it's like a business opens and within 4 months it's gone. And like, you try to support this business, but it was like they just cannot survive. And like, this environment that we're in right now is only going to make that more difficult, and we're only going to see more like big chain stores replace the little guy as they flounder in this environment, in this economy. So if you
Well,
have a sorry, just if you have a business that you want to support locally, now's the time to do it if you can, because it will affect them more than it will Walmart.
oh yeah, no, for sure. And I want to talk on that topic a little bit more, but to go back a little bit to the supplements and pharmaceuticals specifically. So, mo most pharmaceuticals are made overseas, mostly in China. That is something that has been a so I know it was a big part of the first Trump administration talk, there were a lot of talking points about bringing pharmaceuticals back to the US. Um, I hope, and I truly believe, again, politics aside, my hope, especially with um, the health and, the changes in the Health and Human Services Department, is that there is going to be a big push to bring pharmaceutical manufacturing. As much as I'm not a huge fan of the pharmaceutical industry. Like, let's
No.
be clear on this.
No, I don't think anybody likes them. If you like the pharmaceutical industry, we need to have a chat.
you're
I mean, they're like a
you're a
necessary
say
evil, right? They're a
yeah.
necessary evil. Like that's all
Wait,
they are. And
no,
if
that's masochist, right? You're a masochist if you like the
yeah,
pharmaceutical
well,
industry.
I mean, I feel like if you, I mean, even if you're super like pro medicine, modern, Western medicine and all that, just knowing that you're sick and you need a pill or a shot or something is already enough to like put us off the pharmaceutical industry, right? So
Yeah,
we all know that like they're a necessary evil. I think even they recognize like they really are a necessary evil because
they are.
we're
We'll
sick and then
say
we rely on them only when we're
I'm
sick.
I'm gonna say a semi-necessary evil. Semi-necessary evil. I think there are cases then when absolutely, we want pharmaceuticals, but the rate the United States uses pharmaceuticals is insanity. We should not be doing what we're doing. But at any rate, if you have an animal that does rely on pharmaceuticals, your vet may not have an answer for you, but maybe they can get around the, refill every 30 days to help you get a larger supply on board just in case, right? They may
Yeah.
not have an answer for, I don't know if this is going to be available in 30 days. Who the heck knows? But maybe they can help you with getting more frequent refills right now so that you can stock up a little bit. If it is something that your veterinarian feels like your pet cannot do without. But another thing to think about, as you were saying, stock up on what you can stock up on, because again, going back when we were talking about food and these companies potentially providing it never like I feel like it can't get any worse, and then they figure out a way to make it worse, right? Like the quality of the food, the quality of the supplements, potentially, like, the market could be flooded with really, really poor quality, adulterated, heavy metal filled supplements that are just trying to fill a void where people can't afford the higher quality ones anymore. So that's something that I really want to be like, think about that. Don't, just because, like, if you can't afford in a month or 2 months or 3 months or however, again, I agree with Isabel that I think this is going to be a very temporary thing. But if a month or two down the road you can't afford what you're used to buying, don't just go and buy some brand you've never heard of because it's cheap, because it likely is cheap for a very, very good
Yeah.
reason. And you could be causing more harm to your pet than good by doing that. And of course, I will never, ever, ever say I don't know anything going on with your individual animal, but I would almost go out on a limb and say it would probably be better to forego something like a supplement than
Yes.
to give them something that's highly adulterated, potentially filled with heavy metals, and who the heck knows what else. So if you can stock up on things like that now, go ahead and do that, especially if you are supporting a small business, especially if you are supporting a local business, even if that. So when we think about local, we tend to think hyper local, but honestly, United States, in this case, United States is local for me, right? Like, it would be lovely to be able to sit there and say, well, I'm only going to buy from the tri-state area, or what, like something like that. But that may not be
Yeah, they
in
may not
this
have
type of
what you
situation.
need. Yeah,
Exactly.
exactly.
Um, and I think the same is going to be true for grooming products. You talked about packaging, also the supply chain.
Yeah, just think about
Um,
the bottle of shampoo. Like that
yeah,
bottle of shampoo might be, cents on the dollar right now. It might end up being just the bottles over $1 at some point, if not more. We're talking about 25% tariffs. And I will say this, I do think it's temporary because I don't genuinely believe that this trade war, this tariff war, will actually like materialize. Like I don't
yeah.
believe we're actually going to end up with tariffs. I believe, and I'm going to try to say this without giving anything away, but I believe. Actually, I'm not going to do that. I believe this is a whole pissing contest. That's what I think this is. This is a political pissing contest, and I think at some point everybody's going to realize that it's going to suck for everybody if we move forward with this, so we're all going to like put our tail between our legs and shut up about it, move on. That's what I foresee happening. However, I have been surprised before, so I don't know, and I don't have a crystal ball. If I did, Jessica and I would be like in a resort somewhere on an island having this conversation with you because I would have won the lotto.
I'm going to get
Um,
you a crystal ball.
but that is not the case. So I don't know what's going to happen, but I do believe that it is a pissing contest that is not going to actually materialize, and we're going to all like have like freaked out for nothing. But inevitably, it is going to affect our bottom line. And unfortunately, the consumer is always the one who gets screwed because the big guys are never going to lose a dime, but we are certainly going to lose a dime. One thing I did want to talk about is compounding pharmacies. Don't forget that they exist. Your veterinarian may not even know about a compounding pharmacy. Like I use the compounded form of ivermectin for my skin. Zulantra, the brand name is like $250, like a little thing for a month or something. And my insurance wouldn't cover it. So my dermatologist initially had me going to a compounding pharmacy for my personal thing in Dallas. And now in El Paso, it's been like 2 years, 3 years maybe. And now in El Paso, one of our local pharmacies started compounding. So compounding is becoming way more popular. It is a great option when either the brand name is too expensive, like there is no generic of Zulantra. So like my only option was Zulantra or the compounded version, and it's just as effective. It just is like it was like $50. Now I get it $45 and it's delivered to my house, which is amazing. So don't forget to look into compounding. What they do is basically they make the medicine in-house. They'll get the active ingredient. They'll make the not active ingredient mixes in-house, and it's usually for like anything for cats, especially like a lot of cats get stuff compounded because they can't take the pill, so they'll make like an ear ointment or like some kind of like jarabe, like some kind of, how do you say it, like some liquid version of the
Yeah,
medication.
yeah, yeah.
We call it jarabe in Spanish, so if you're a Latino, you'll know what I'm saying. But yeah, so compounding pharmacies might be a really great option if you call your vet, if there's an unavailability, or if like the prices shoot up. Ask your veterinarian. So when I went to see my endocrinologist, she didn't even know that this compounding pharmacy here locally was now compounding. You know what I mean? So like,
Yeah, yeah.
not all doctors are aware. Do your own research. I think our veterinarians are having a hard enough time. We've talked about this in the past. They're having a hard enough time keeping their doors open without being bought out by like corporations that are getting into the veterinary industry. So like they may not know exactly what's going on. So do your own research if you are in a situation where you don't have the medicine that your pet needs to live or to be comfortable. And then also, remember that if you are saving money every month, like let's say that you've opted against pet insurance. If you are saving money every month, it might be smart to save a little more until this is all done, because like I said at the beginning, everything that veterinary offices use is going to go up. Like I'll just throw out a number. I say, well, at least, Jessica, you tell me if I'm over or under, at least 89% of everything that's used in a veterinary office probably comes from China.
Oh, I would imagine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
if the tariffs really do happen, or if we continue to do this pissing contest long term, all of that is going to cost them more. So then it's going to cost us more. And then if you have pet insurance, I would expect it to go up. Like, I genuinely
Absolutely.
believe that it's going to go up. And the thing about these moments, and I'm a business owner, and like, everything's gone up for me. I work business to business, B2B. I provide digital marketing services to businesses, and everything that I use, my my Google suite has gone up. My scheduling software, that software that I use to schedule posts for digital marketing, has gone up. Domains have gone up in the past couple months. Everything has gone up because everything is affected in some way, shape, or form by this. So I have no doubt that my pet insurance for Van Gogh is going to go up. I have no doubt that my food for the dogs is going to go up. I have no doubt that everything is so expensive right now. We have 2 trips planned this summer, and I'm just like, OMG, how are we gonna, you know what I mean? Like, just the meals are going to be so much more expensive than we budgeted for, and we have 2 big trips, so that were booked in January before any of this really. So I know that we need to like really be mindful of our spending, of our budgeting for our pets, so that they get the care that they need. But I also don't want people to ignore the vet or not take the
Mm-hmm.
pets to the vet because they're scared. There are programs out there. Um, I will say there's, the vet only Facebook groups are really great. I think that they're such an amazing resource. If you have a pet with an acute situation, you can go to Facebook, and they're literally, I think they're called vet only, veterinarian only, something like that. And it's basically a place where you would put your pet symptoms, a picture if there's an acute situation that you can photograph, and you ask, like, what should I do, what do I need to do? And I've seen in the case where it's like an acute situation that needs immediate attention, where people are like, can somebody find like a financial resource for this person? So there are resources out there if you find yourself in a place where most of us have found ourselves, where it's like a huge veterinary bill and not knowing how to pay for it. Use your resources, but do not like avoid the vet only because of a potential price increase. I mean, the price increase could be $50.
Yeah.
It may not be like that big. So I don't mean to scare people away from the vet. I just, for those of you who are planning and planners like I am, you might need to just plan a little bit more
Yeah.
generously.
Yeah. And I had Jonathan Weinberg on the podcast recently, who's the VP at Care Credit. So
That's
that's
right.
a resource
Yeah.
also.
Yes.
Um, there, gosh, there are so many things. And one thing that I know this is probably like going to throw people into overwhelm, but just in the research I was doing, I didn't think about it, and I was like, oh yeah, like rescues and shelters are gonna really be struggling as well. So if you
They're
happen to
already
be,
struggling. I mean, this is
yeah,
happening at the
they're
worst time.
there.
So, really quickly, it's Pet Vet Corner, service mark, only approved veterinarians. That's what the name of the group is that I'm in. I'm sure there's other ones, but Pet Vet Corner, SM, only approved veterinarians comment. So we can all join, but the only people, and we can post, but the only people who can give advice and comment are veterinarians, and they have to be approved in order to comment, which is what makes it such a valuable resource. Yeah, so it is a really bad time for this to happen for rescues and shelters, because at this time of year they are always overwhelmed with kitten and puppy
Mhm.
season. And now we are at full capacity. I just saw Nathan the cat lady talking to some haters about he had posted about finding a feral mama and her kittens and taking the kittens from her, and obviously returning her, TNRing her, the mom. And somebody had been like, how horrible it is that you like play God, or, separate this family or whatever. And it's like, if you have a better solution, I mean, we're all ears, is basically what Nathan said. Like, are you helping? Because there are so many more animals than there are shelters, fosters, rescues that can help. And during kitten season, which is basically now through fall, because they like have like the million litters from now until then. Um, it's really tough. It's really tough. And a lot of people surrender pets before long trips. We have a lot of owner surrenders based on just financials and economics. And so it is just like this really terrible time for rescues and shelters. So if you are blessed in any way at this time and you do want to support somebody, this is a really good time to help your neighbors in need, whether it's a rescue, a municipal shelter, anything that you're passionate about helping. This is a really good time to do it because yes, people are going hungry, pets are going hungry. So whatever, speaks to you, please be generous right now if you have the ability to do so.
Mhm.
Because again, it's a rough time. A lot of business owners are scared. A lot of workers are scared to be laid off. A lot of veterinarians can't, keep their doors open without selling. It's like it's tough. It's like all coming together. So it's not just the tariffs. It's like it's already been
Mhm.
a rough time in the United States and abroad. I mean,
Yeah.
in Spain they are, I was just in Spain for almost 3 weeks, and like, they're so scared about the economy and a collapse and like, politics and world relations and diplomacy, kind of lacking right now, and it's just a scary time. So
Yeah.
if you are blessed, then this is a good time to pay it forward.
Yeah. Absolutely. You know, as a, you talk about, of course, you're a small business owner. I'm a small business owner. I'm in the process of having to shut down a business for another reason. Um, and one of the things that I'm actively doing is working out a way to reopen this business better, more aligned, with what I have learned in the past decade and a half, doing what I do. And it's made me think a lot about how quickly we forget, because we were in this exact same situation 5 years ago for different reasons, somewhat different reasons. That's a whole other conversation. But that's a whole other conversation. But we were in this exact same position 5 years ago where nothing was coming, nothing was being shipped, nothing was going anywhere worldwide. And I think, we forget so quickly. I'm sure some small businesses pivoted. Um, and maybe some of those pivots lasted, maybe they didn't. But I think this is another, I'm going to choose to look at this as another opportunity for small businesses, especially. And granted, this may not be across the board where people can do these things, especially if it's something really, really super niche. But and what I also believe, one of the kind of like pillars of why this is happening is to bring manufacturing back into America, into the United States. And so I think for maybe not the small, like micro businesses, but the smaller mid-sized businesses, especially, where can you pivot? Where can you say, okay, instead of importing this, can we build this? Can manufacture? Is there a company that is already in manufacturing that can add this to their portfolio for you? Or can you somehow, don't ask me, create manufacturing jobs to get the job done for what you need to do? And granted, will that end product be a little bit more expensive than what you sold 6 months ago? Maybe. But will it be as expensive as what we're expecting these tariffs to be? Probably not. So, I really would
Depends, yeah,
like
on the
to,
product.
it does depend on the product for
Yeah.
sure. And again, maybe not everybody can do this, especially the like micro small businesses. I get that. I get that. But I think, this is, especially for small business owners, like people who are small business owners they're a rare breed, right? Like you are problem solvers. You are out here trying to solve problems for other people all day long. That's what your products and services are about. And so, if you can pivot a little bit to say, okay, how do I solve this problem for myself? And maybe bring some sort of manufacturing back into the United States, I think that's kind of one of the ultimate goals of what's happening now. And I hope to see more of that. Because again, when we talk about supporting local, supporting American made, like this is what we're looking for as consumers. So that's my little like message of hope.
Okay. I I mean, I'm a little more cynical on that because I grew up in a developing country where if you can't import it, you still can't make it because you don't have the skills, the machinery, the this, the that. So like
Mhm.
yes, there are cases where you absolutely, especially in the United States, it's not Ecuador, right, where I was born. Um, in the United States, there is money, there are investment, there's capital, right?
Yeah.
So like, yes, there
Yeah.
absolutely is a way to invest and create something here, but unfortunately, at the end of the day, if it's too expensive, it's like people aren't gonna buy it, so then it's nobody's gonna do it, and then it just kind of ends up being like just a hope. Even though I see it like I see it as we talked last week about Earth Day a little bit, and having relying on manufacturers that are across the world is bad for the
Yeah.
environment. So yes, like there
Yeah.
would be a lot of positive in bringing manufacturing to the United States. I just, it's one of those things where it's like maybe I'm just cynical and jaded and I'm like I just don't I see the benefit of it. I really do, and I think it's a really good intention. I just don't know how realistic it is. So, I mean, I would say that, one of the biggest things we can do since we can't control anything is just control our consumerism.
Mhm.
And that we talked about that over Earth Day. We're going to talk about that here. We've talked about that a lot in our conversations in the weekly pet roundup that we do. Is where is it really something that I need? Is it we're not encouraging anybody to hoard things. You don't need 20 bottles of pet shampoo right now. Like you could potentially stock up on 3 bottles of CBD. You'd be plenty fine with that. If you'd like to buy in bulk, I hear ya. I'm tired of buying in bulk actually because I
Yeah.
feel like I have to store so many things that I hate it. So we're not encouraging you to like go crazy. We're not encouraging you to like hoard things and leave others without it. We're just kind of making like having the conversation so we can think about where our priorities lie, where our challenges may lie, and maybe a reminder. This has been a reminder for me at least that maybe I don't need all the things I thought I needed, and that maybe the world would be a better place if we stopped consuming so much, where our leaders would literally fight over getting us stuff cheaper on Timu, you know, that comes from like factories where like the conditions are horrible and like children are being put to work. You know what I mean? So like maybe it's a good wake up call for us to be like, why are we so dependent on things and plastics
Mhm.
and gross stuff? And maybe we do need to return to a lesser, I mean, like opulent lifestyle.
Mhm.
I remember when I was little and going to birthday parties and just like having, thank you, Tara Lee. I think she's agreeing with me. Tara Lee's on YouTube. Thank you. She says 100%. But I remember going to birthday parties when I was a kid, and I think I left with like a little sweet or something like that. And now my kids leave with all this like plastic junk and like tons of candy. And when you look at that bag, you think of the money that the family already spent on the party, and you think about the amount of money they spent on Amazon or the dollar
Mhm.
store or Temu for all these things, and how they're all going to end up in a landfill, and how the candy is so bad for the kids, and how every wrapper that the candy comes in ends up in a landfill or like in the oceans. And I have to be like, we need to stop this. But then we got kind of get like roped into this consumerism, and these moments are a really good wake up call to be like, I don't need it. We don't need it. Does my pet really need it? Like, yes, they need food and they need the best quality food you can give them, but not at the expense of your peace of mind or your sanity or your the roof over your head. So finding places where we can cut back is a really great start to mediating or just kind of navigating this moment in our history, which is not going to be the first or the last, where we have, you know, politicians playing
Yep.
politics and costing us money in the process.
Absolutely. I agree. And that's actually something that I feel like I had started working on it a little bit, um, definitely in the last maybe half of last year. I really started going through my house and like paring things down, donating everything I could, that was worth donating that I knew I could live without. I've stopped buying a lot of things. I still buy things, don't get me wrong, but like I am much more aware of what I'm purchasing and I'm not just purchasing to purchase like I used to. And then with like recent events in my life, I'm realizing how much less I can actually live with. Um, and it's a pretty big like eye opener, even with the things that like I thought I had pared down a lot of the stuff I had bought for my pets, and even still I'm like, I have all this stuff that I'm still not using
Yeah,
for my pets. Granted, there are things that you want to have on hand for just in case, like absolutely,
yeah,
emergencies, but it's really interesting once you start really paring down the things that's in your house. And again, for me, I would rather spend my money at this point in my life. I would rather spend my money on really high quality food, um, really high quality supplements that are necessary, and then um, experiences rather
yeah,
than like that cute vase at Home Goods that,
yeah.
or my 100th blanket, or you know what I
Do
mean?
not go to
Like,
Home Goods, guys. Don't go there. Tara Lee says buying less actually feels very freeing.
it
Yes. And
does.
one of the things that I've done in 2025 is I stopped going to Home Goods and like
Mm,
just like picking one thing up. Like I'm
yeah.
not going in there because I end up and I celebrate the moments where let's say I had actually had purchased something for Van Gogh, the cat, and it like started like it literally it was like a really cute scratcher that started like disintegrating in the car on the way
Oh
home, and I
my
finally went and
gosh.
returned it, and thankfully they were very good about returning it. It was like literally falling apart, like the little nails that held the wicker together were like
Oh,
coming
this,
off. It was bad.
yeah.
And I literally returned it and walked out. And what I did was celebrate the fact that I returned it and walked out. And I was
Yep.
like, this is all. And it's hard when you have little kids, and it's hard when you have pets that maybe like are puppies, and you really like, they're anxious and they're excitable, and you want to buy them things to keep them or entertained, or a cat that is scratching and everybody says enrichment, 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 so you go and you buy a million things. If it doesn't work out, anything that's washable can actually be donated to your rescues and shelters too. So remember, keep that in mind. You now that we have Instagram and we can slide into each other's DMs, just slide into your local shelters DM and be like, what do you need? And maybe what they need is something you can easily live without. And I know that some of us have a hard time saying goodbye to items that belong to our pets, but right now would be a good time to, maybe find an old collar that maybe, you were hanging on to for sentimental value that still has a life left. And this is a good time to donate it, pass it on, pay it forward, just so that they don't have to invest in these things. I know that the less money the huge corporations make, the less charity they're going to do,
Mhm.
because let's be honest, they're doing charity because they want to pay fewer taxes. So
Yes, tax write-off.
the amount of money they donate is based on the amount of money they bring in. So if they're bringing in less, they're going to donate less. That's just the way it works. So there are reasons to like be generous, even if it means not spending any of your own money, just donating what you already have. So we hope that this was helpful. I mean, if you have any questions, comments, please Let us know. And I mean, let's
Yeah.
hope that let's hope that something good comes out of this. Let's hope that this was just a conversation that doesn't even, that like we're laughing about like the scare of the tariffs that never happened. I mean, it definitely has gone from like the whole world to China, so
Yeah.
we're already doing better than we were a month ago.
Oh, for sure. Absolutely. And I know, like, I think people, again, they're feeling it with these like preemptive price increases. They're feeling it because the stock market is 100% emotional and 0% rational. I mean, that's just the reality of the world we live in. And so people are feeling it because of expectations at this point. And I think putting that in perspective can be helpful. Um, because it all is expectation at this point. Um, and again, for me, like this is just like the season of my life that I'm in right now, where I'm like, what good can I find in this? And so, like, trying to be hopeful about bringing manufacturing back to America. Like, I would just love that so much for me. Like, I don't. Okay, it would be wonderful for our economy. Like the fact that we have, I don't even know what the percentage of jobs in the United States or government jobs is, freaking laughable. So moving those jobs back into, the private sector and small businesses and medium-sized businesses, I really think like, okay, there are going to be growing pains, but just because there are growing pains doesn't mean that we shouldn't do it. And I just, if our hand has to be forced to do it, then our hand has to be forced to do it. And I think in the long term, if we do this right as a country, not me and you, Isabel, but if we do this right as a country, we'll be so much better off in the long run, is my
Yeah,
hope.
I think we can all take something positive from this. I really do. I think we can all take a little inventory of how our lifestyles are kind of almost playing into this trade war, and how we can better control our behavior so that whatever they do at the top doesn't affect us
Mm-hmm.
so immediately and
Yeah.
so drastically. Thank you, Tara, for being here. She said, great conversation, ladies. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for being here. Thank you all for being here. If you have any comments, concerns, any corrections for us, any thoughts that you want to share on politics or otherwise, you're welcome to do so in comments. We may not play. We're not going to play like mom and mediate the conversation, but
No.
you guys can go off if you want to in comments. That's fine. But we got through it without without giving too much away. Let's just pray for everybody in the world, especially our military men and women who are probably the ones who have to deal with all the repercussions of all of the behaviors. So let's just focus on what we can control, which is our spending.
Absolutely.
That
Yeah.
goes out to
That
my husband, who's a spender, and my kids who are spenders, and me, who is a spender.
and
That's more for me than it is for anybody who's listening.
and I think after this, Isabel is gonna pimp Chris out for home improvements around the neighborhood to, to bank some money for your vacations
I
this year.
mean, Chris already donates plasma.
Mm.
Chris donates
Oh, nice,
plasma. Yeah, he
nice.
likes to do it.
That's
He's
good
a
of
big
him.
guy, so he gets to do a lot, and there's such a shortage of plasma that he loves to do that. So it's something, it's like he likes it because he gets to do something that doesn't really affect him in any way. I can't really donate plasma. I'm too little, and I get no money, and then it like really affects me, and I
Mm-hmm.
get dizzy and stuff. So he's like this big guy who can, and so that's his contribution. And like I said, whatever we make, they give you like a card when you donate plasma, which is like a debit card. And like I've already used it for like plants. I used it for plants for our front yard. So good
Nice.
stuff. Stuff
Yeah,
that's
I love that.
good for the world.
Yeah. Awesome. All right, guys. I think we're gonna end this right at an hour for maybe the first time in the history of the weekly pet roundup. And if you guys have any recommendations for next
Oh
week, let us know.
yeah, that's right.
Otherwise, we will find something to talk about. Yeah. All right, guys. Have a fabulous rest of your
Rest of the
week,
week.
and we'll talk to
Bye.
you next Tuesday.
Bye.